Hi, folks. My name is Girish Bally, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. Well, we're almost done, aren't we? Season 2 is almost over, and with your love and support, I am so glad that it's over in a good way. Because you know what? It's really hard to get all the episodes all the way I do it. And with your love and support, that's all I need is comments, reviews, and a thumbs up that I did a good job. And I cannot wait for season 3 to come out, which is next year. So here's an episode today. We're going to talk about food stress relief, that is, and how and what do we need to do in order to relieve it. Because we have a whole bunch of stress. I mean, you've seen TV shows and movies that when they get stressed out, they eat ice cream. Now, is that healthy for you? We don't know. That's your choice, right? I eat cookies. I eat chocolate. Is that good for you? No. So there are foods which are good for you, and there are good kind of bad food out there, right? How do you control that, and what triggers it? I will also give out some examples in the middle of the interview too. Don't tell Renee this. Oh, by the way, Renee's the guest of my show today, and she's an amazing person. Let's bring her on. Let's chit chat with her and get to know her better, and then we'll talk about stress relief with the food that the choices that you're going to make. How about that? Renee, how are you? Thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you again for coming on the show, and definitely delighted. We had a great time right before the recording too. So before we start about the food stress and everything else, what does Back to Basic mean to you, Renee?
Well, I think for me, back to basics means sifting down through all the extraneous clutter in our hearts and our minds to
Hmm.
get to what's really important again.
Hmm. Wow. That's the same thing I think very similarly that you also had on the calendar when I asked you that question. I think the exact words were shifting down through all the clutter in minds and heart and activities to get what's important and helpful, right?
Pretty
So
close.
yeah, pretty close. Well, thank you again for Renee for coming here, and thank you for again for answering that question.
Mm.
So how tough is release the stress food? I mean, we are stressed every day, aren't we? I mean, Monday through Sunday. I'm not even talking about the weekdays when we work.
Mm.
But how do we what do we do? I mean, what do we trigger? I mean, what are your thoughts on this, Renee?
Well, it's something that we learned from birth and perhaps in utero to
Mm,
soothe ourselves.
mm,
If you see pictures of babies in the womb, very often they will have their thumb in their mouth.
mm,
Or immediately after they come out and they cry, we give them the bottle or the breast or a pacifier.
mm,
So we learn very early that we soothe ourselves by putting something in our mouths.
mm,
And as children, they have the pacifier for a certain amount of time and then they have to give it up. And it's usually fairly traumatic. So
mm,
what they do is they go to candy
mm,
or something else, right?
mm,
Adults
mm,
go to donuts or pizza or all those comfort foods. So it's a very normal and natural process. It's
mm,
just not always helpful because
mm.
there are other ways to soothe ourselves. And if we find another way to soothe ourselves that works for us, then we don't need to go for food quite so much.
Yeah, yeah. That is so right. Thank you so much, Renee, for answering that question. As I said earlier in the beginning of the intro, I mean, some people they eat ice cream and they take chocolate and cookies and everything like that, but now we just have to be diligent as to eating the correct food for you instead of just eating all that junk. I mean, that's considered junk food, isn't it?
Mm.
So how do
It
we
can be.
limitize that junk food? I mean, I guess junk food is okay, but in a portions of it, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the problem is that so much has become junk food. We've gotten so used to it because it's so easy to go through a drive-through. It's
Hmm,
so easy. Even at the hardware store, there's candy and chips and things at the
that's right.
checkout, right?
That's
I don't know that you might be able to go into a furniture store and not have candy at the checkout, but it's just they go for the impulse buy.
well, just an FYI, Renee, they have mints.
Oh, well,
Just
okay. Yeah, there's no place you can go when
that's
food's
right.
not available,
That's
right?
right. Right.
And, there are good I mean, junk food is fine, but it has to be moderated. Now,
Mm,
for me, it's not so great
mm,
because I have a reaction to sugar. It
mm,
makes me mean, Garish,
mm,
and I only learned that after I gave it up. So, you have to learn what works for your body as well as the amounts that will work for you. Because
mm,
if you go over the amounts,
mm,
your body tends to store it
mm,
because that's what we are disposed to do. We
mm,
store extra and we store it in fat cells.
mm,
And
mm,
that's the problem is that our fat cells cause us extra trouble, both the size of our body, the size of our clothes, how
mm,
we feel.
mm,
I did not know how bad I felt until I gave up sugar
mm,
and most starches. And
mm,
once I did, I thought, I did not know that.
mm,
So it's finding what works for your body that's the
mm,
important thing.
mm,
I'll have, Christmas or whatever. I'll have things that I don't normally eat.
mm.
And I pay for it for about a week afterwards.
Sure, sure. I mean, it really depends on how much you can handle, how much you don't can't handle, right? I mean, there's even just regular food I'm talking about. For example, some people they just can't digest any fast food place, and which is totally fine,
Mm,
and some people can, but then the results show much later in time, right?
yeah.
About their uh, the fatness, which is the obese that we deal with in the U.S. and
Mhm. Or
sodium,
diabetes.
diabetes, and blood pressure, cholesterol. I mean, I can just go on, right? I mean, there's
Mm.
other things, but we won't get into that the detailed part of it. But is really true. Renee, in the intro, I did say that I was going to give you or give everyone in this call some examples that I have found for stress relief and what are the advantages too.
Mhm.
So there'll be a whole bunch of examples throughout this call. So if that's okay with you, I'll give you one right now.
Sure.
Obviously, just an FYI, guys, we are going to be talking about vegetarian food and non-veg, and by the way, vegan folks also, because I do want to cater to all, and we have been catering in Back to Basics on that. The first one is going to be grilled salmon burger with avocado salsa that actually reduces omega-3 fatty acids on there. So this is what I've been told that that's the advantage, right? For because you have salmon, then you have avocado, which is definitely awesome for you. I love
Mhm.
salmon, by the way. So that's a good thing for me,
Mhm.
right? I don't know about you, but Renee, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, salmon is wonderful.
Mm,
And, we get so many omega 6s and everything else. We've got to build up our omega 3s.
mm, mm. So let me ask you this. Why do we get stressed? I mean, obviously, we just mentioned about Monday through Sunday, but are there any other stresses? I mean, it's a constant struggle, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I think I told you before, I was stressed today because I had a lot of things back to back and I wanted to make sure that I was there on time because that's a thing for me.
Yeah.
So we can make a stress out of almost anything.
Yeah.
And, life is just more stressful. The pandemic just exacerbated everything. And, they're still questioning, okay, are masks good or bad? Um, Vaccine, not vaccine, boosters, all of that. There are just so many stressors just to walk into a grocery store now.
Mm,
So I think there are many, many, many ways we have stress around us and create it for ourselves. And much of that is, we focus on the things that we don't want in our lives.
mm, mm,
And that creates stress for us. Whereas if we focus on the things we do want in our lives and ignore everything else, it helps us.
mm. Yeah, that's true. But let me ask you this, right? I mean, we're gonna be eating to reduce our stress, but how do we know that too much of is not good, and how do we know uh, that you're stress eating
Mhm.
versus enjoying eating? Does that make sense?
Sure, sure. And typically it's down to motive. Are you hungry? actually physically hungry. And unfortunately, in this country in particular, we have lost touch with whether or not we are actually hungry.
Hmm.
We just eat at certain times because we're supposed to. We never ask, am I hungry? Am I satisfied yet? And that creates a problem for
Hmm.
us.
Hmm.
And then, if you're hungry, then you may want to eat. In
Hmm.
fact, I have an acronym. I say overcoming emotional eating isn't hard. You just have to get the hang of it. And hang is the acronym. So H, am I hungry? A, what is my attraction to food in this moment?
Hmm.
Is it because I want that particular thing, or will anything do? Is it
Hmm.
because I feel stressed and therefore I want to relieve that, so I will eat this?
Hmm.
Is it because it reminds me of a simpler time?
Hmm.
What is it in this moment that is attracting me to that particular food?
Hmm.
And then the end is, what do I actually need right now?
Hmm.
Do I need to let some pressure off?
Hmm.
Do I need to just walk the dog?
Hmm.
Take a little walk around the block. What
Hmm.
is it that I truly need in this moment? And
Hmm.
then the G is go. Go get that, because that will soothe you more than food ever possibly could.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for explaining that, because now I think I'm going to be using the hang word for a long time, because you know what? It kind of explains everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So thank you again for Renee for explaining that. So let me give you another example now.
Okay.
Other example is pear balsamic salad with dried cherry and walnuts.
Oh, nice.
Now, the advantage for this is that back in 2013, there was a study going on. They found that college students tend to feel calmer, happier, and more energetic on days that they ate more fruits and vegetables.
Hmm.
So now the question is, why does it take that long to do that study? I thought it was a normal thing to do, isn't it? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Are we not doing that?
Well, studies are funny because they've got to find a way to quantify everything.
That's right.
And they have to take into account all the pieces that would um, mess up the study.
Hmm.
So they've got to have a constant somewhere.
Yeah.
And then they've got to try different things.
Hmm.
And they've got to have the self-reporting.
Hmm.
So I'm guessing it just took a long time to actually gather all of the information and then get it written,
Hmm.
because that's part of it as well. It's analyzing the results.
Yeah. 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 Thank you so much, Renee, for explaining that. Let me give you an example. The example that I have is people who are smoking or drinking, right?
Mm,
They know they have a addiction going on. They know that they have health issues there, right? We know what needs to be done.
mhm.
But stress eating is also an addiction. So how do we stop?
Oh, it's a force of will for part of it. And then, I mean, but the problem is willpower doesn't last very long.
No.
So we have to automate some things to give us support, because, willpower drains all day long. Everything you do drains willpower. So that's why in that morning meeting, you left the donuts alone. But when you got home, you ate the whole bag of cookies because
Hmm.
you ran out of willpower.
Hmm.
So the way to attack that is automate as many decisions as possible. I mean, we do it. We get up in the morning, we clean our teeth, we put on the coffee or the kettle, and we get dressed and we go to work.
Hmm.
It's not something we think about. We
Hmm.
just go through the structure.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's making rules for yourself.
Hmm.
Like I used to do some work in a hospital, and one of the rules I made for myself, because people are kind and bring food, and want to share it. Um, the problem is they don't always bring food that's good for you.
That's right.
It's usually high in sugar and all of that. So I made the rule for myself that I don't take free food at the hospital.
Hmm.
In 20 years, I may have broken that twice, and it was because somebody brought nuts, and those are okay for me.
Hmm.
So, making some rules, things like the kitchen is closed after a certain hour, so
Hmm.
that it's not even a thought.
Hmm.
You're watching TV, you don't even think, "Oh, I'm gonna go get some food," because the kitchen's right there. right?
mm, mm,
So it is choosing to make a change and staying with it until you do.
mm,
Um, in 2015, I gave up sugar.
mm,
And I started with, I only have sugar on Sundays.
mm,
And on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I may have been standing in the pantry staring down the chocolate chips, saying to myself, I only have sugar on Sundays. But then I got to the following Sunday, I could have my sugar, and I was like, okay, I made it. This is good.
mm,
And over time, I less often had sugar on Sundays. And
mm,
finally, I stopped it altogether.
mm,
But it's choosing to work yourself into that space
mm.
rather than, I mean, if you can do it cold turkey, great. And some people
Sure.
need to do that. I needed to ease my way into it. But
Yeah.
it's setting goals for yourself and being honest with yourself about what you need to do, being uh, loyal to yourself enough to do what you say you want to do.
I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like people who quit smoking, they can do cold turkey, or they can do small increments. It's just like the same way that you're explaining about the food. So let me
Yeah.
ask you this, right? Now, you gave an example of just being on the go, right? Schedule yourself and just keep on running. When I say running, I mean do your diligent schedule, right?
Mhm.
But now the question is that when we were shut down for 2 years, right, in the COVID time, right, we're
Mhm.
sitting down, so there's not much to do there. So now the question is, what is a habit and what is a routine? Because there was a routine that we just kept on going. Then slowly it became a habit. But then during the COVID time, was that a habit or was that a routine? I mean, what are your thoughts on that now?
COVID was forced. We didn't have a choice.
Right.
So it's not like we could choose to do something different.
Hmm.
It was everybody do this so that we can flatten the curve, and then we just had to live with it.
Hmm.
So I think habits and routines are things that we can choose.
Hmm.
And I think you do your routine until it becomes a habit.
Hmm.
So they're very similar. I think with a habit, you never think about it again. You
Hmm.
just keep doing it. Routine, sometimes you have to think about because, you know, a doctor's appointment comes up. So you've got to make space in your day for that.
That's right.
Or a client cancels. Okay, what am I going to do with this hour now?
Hmm.
So the routine can be disrupted and your habits can be, but it's much less likely to happen once it's set.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, thank you again, Renee. Before we go to the next question, here's another example:
Okay.
a skillet mushroom chicken with quinoa rice, and the benefit of that is that it lowers the blood pressure. So if nobody knew that, you know that now. So let's get on with it. I mean, whoever has blood pressure issues, I think that's what it is. But just do me a favor before you listen to me. Why don't you just ask the doctor too, the physician, because you want to make sure that you have the right nutritions in your body,
Mm.
just by not getting a Joe Schmo advertisement. Okay, just listen to your doctors and just to go from there. That's just my diligence that I did my homework.
There
So
you go.
Renee, thank you again for listening on that. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, there are foods out there which will lower your blood pressure and control your cholesterol and your sodium. So is that considered also a stress relief food? Also,
Well, it depends on the body,
Mhm.
right? I mean, when you go to a doctor and he gives you a prescription, he takes into account your chemistry and then he tries the dosage to see what works for you, right? So if we are that individual for medication, then food
Mhm.
may also be that individual,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to know what works for your body, which is why I give my clients a metabolic test that tells them, okay, this is what you should be eating. And I do that because that changed my life.
Mhm.
When I found out what I had been doing wasn't really working for me. I mean,
Mhm.
it worked, it made the scale go in the right direction, but it left me tired, hungry, and cranky all the time. So
Mhm.
that wasn't a good thing for me.
Mhm.
So this metabolic test said, you need this in your life. And I was like, really? I haven't done that in a long time.
Mhm.
And once I did that, I felt tons better. I got the
Mm,
right prescription for my body.
mm,
So that sounds like a lovely meal. It wouldn't work for me.
mm.
But there is a better way to lower your blood pressure.
Okay. You have an example you want to give?
Take some deep breaths and
Exactly.
take a minute to rest.
Mm,
We get busy and that adrenaline gets flowing through us and that raises our blood pressure much more than salt or anything else.
mm,
So if you can calm, take a good deep breath, think about something nice for a minute,
mm.
that will help you a lot more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah, that is so true. Thank you so much, Renee, for that. Let me give you another example.
Okay.
The oatmeal with garlic kale, not garlic kale, it's garlic key, because that's too much of garlic in the kale. And they say that which helps lower risk of depression and increases vitamin C,
Mhm.
which can help lower the hormones.
So, Garish, are we talking about oatmeal with kale and
Yeah,
garlic all in
yeah,
one bowl?
all in one bowl.
Oh, I'd have a hard time with that one.
I know. That's what
I
I
don't
mean.
I
So,
don't
so
fancy that at all.
yeah, of course, of course. I mean, I saw these examples that people are giving, and now the question is, can people digest this, right? And uh, it really fascinated me that there are examples like that which will never taste great, but there are benefits to it.
Um, I think I would rather eat my oatmeal and then my garlic and kale together.
Yeah, that's a good
Separate
idea.
the 2.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, thank you again for that. Does stress causes hunger? Do you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, it uses more energy,
Hmm.
and anytime your body's using energy, it's going to probably make you more hungry. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it does, and it kicks up the need for dopamine,
Hmm.
and anytime we put something in our mouths, we get a hit of dopamine.
Hmm.
So we're stressed. We're looking for any way to de stress. And instead of just going for a walk
Hmm.
or sitting with someone we love and care for,
Hmm.
it's easier and faster to just put something in your mouth.
Hmm. That is true. That is true. Yeah, thank you again, Renee, for explaining that. Let me give you another example. But now this example is all vegan examples, and
Okay.
I want everyone to hear this because I've given you a vegetarian and a non-veg examples, but here's a vegan example.
Okay.
There are 8 things which I have written down that which helps with veganism, stress relief. Okay,
Okay.
dark leaf greens,
Mhm.
sea vegetables, root vegetables, black beans, black sesame seeds, um, blackberries, tofu, and parsley.
Yeah.
Now, if you put that together, you'll get a dish out of it, I'm pretty sure. And it does give you stress relief, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think leafy greens are just good for so many uh, parts of our body,
That's right.
right? Um, I knew about black sesame seeds, blackberries. That's lovely. I mean, those it sounds like darker foods. It sounds like and the root vegetables. That's interesting. That may be a tangent my little brain just went on, but
Yeah.
um, the darker to reduce the stress. That's interesting. Yeah, I
Well,
can
I
see
mean,
that.
well, I knew about blackberries. I've been hearing about blackberries for the longest time, so I think that's valid.
Mm,
The greens, I think we've been told forever that greens is good for you.
mm,
Too much of green is not good because then you'll have a bad happy ending.
mm.
That's a separate topic altogether, but it does give you relief. And it does give you great energy for sure. I mean, just
So
earlier I
many
shared
vitamins.
what's that? These are all vitamins, aren't they? So
So many vitamins. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're amazing, amazing. So
Yeah.
Renee, before you leave today, do you have can you explain who Renee is and what do you do if you don't mind to tell
Sure.
everyone? Yeah.
So I am a counselor, coach, and speaker, and I spent 40 years on the diet yo-yo. up and down the scale.
Mm,
And in 2012, I was staring down my 50th birthday and I thought, if I don't lose this weight now, I'm never going to lose it. So I started on a diet and did not succeed for some time.
mm.
And I finally hired myself a coach because I do really well with external accountability. And I reached my goal weight the week before my 50th birthday. And that's over 9 years now that I've been at this exact same weight.
Well,
And
that's a
I,
good thing. That's a good thing, isn't it? That you
oh, yeah,
reached your goal
yeah, yeah, and maintained it.
and maintained it. Yeah.
And now I help others reach their goal so they can maintain as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Renee, thank you so much. And, you know, yeah, but thank you again for coming on the show, and I really really enjoyed. But before you leave today, do you have any last words to all my listeners and my viewers? And how was your journey on Back to Basics too? On top of that, now
Yeah,
that the season's almost over and you're here finally.
this has been fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
And what I would say is there are three parts to this. One is find the nutrition plan that actually works for your body. And if it leaves you hungry all the time, it's not working.
Hmm.
Unpack the baggage, the emotional baggage that drives you to food. Let your heart heal. And that helps you get in touch with your best self.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you, Girish, but when my best self is in charge, I make much better choices.
That's right. That's right. I mean, just bring your own track the way it is, the how you are. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you again for explaining that, and thank you again, Renee, for coming here to share all the nuggets and small nuggets that I share that you can disagree or agree with the food that I have and gave some choices. But thank you again, Renee, for coming here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, guys, we spoke with Renee today and we had a great time, didn't we? And we talked about food, which is good for you or bad for you. And you just have to make those choices. I mean, it's a really, really tough choice. Yes, I get that because you know what? Honestly speaking, French fries are amazing, aren't they? But they're also bad for you too. Not too much of it, just a little. So, guys, as usual, as always, what do I always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. But how about the quote? We forgot the quote, didn't we? So, here's a quote of the day also. The quote of the day is, even if you are on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. Now, isn't that true? I think that's true. Now, guys, as usual, as always, enjoy your day. Thank you again for coming on Back to Basics. We are at the end of Back to Basics for season 2. We will be back season 3 with a bang, with a lot of different changes that we're going to be coming out with. Here's another change, which I will tell you now. Back to Basic Mode Health is a podcast which will be launching next year. And all the health items, instead of you listening here, you will be listening over there. Now, isn't that crazy that how Back to Basics is making simple into simpler to make you be, as easy as that, right? So that's what we're going to do. That's one change. The other change is, well, why don't you listen to the other episodes and listen to the changes? But if you follow Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, or anywhere all my handlings are, I will be announcing all big things happening for next year. So please stay tuned. Please go to my website, subscribe to the newsletters, because I will be coming out with a whole bunch of advertisements for the upcoming months till next year. So guys, take care. God bless. And thank you again. God bless. And I will see you next time on season 3 for Back to Basics. Take care. God bless. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening to Back to Basics. You're listening to Back to Basics on September 29th, and today is the last episode for season 2. Thank you again all for supporting Back to Basics. Definitely today is the last day of the episodes, or I should say the season. Season 3 is going to be a massive change. We are going to be releasing in January. Yes, January. And that's a long time. I do need some break too. But with your love and support, there's many changes that is happening. Well, we started with that we're going to be changing into 4 podcasts for Back to Basics. We're going to have Back to Basics mode for business, marketing, and technology, and that's going to be on Tuesdays, as you know. On Wednesdays, we're going to have motivational speakers for Back to Basics mode wisdom. And if you go to Back to Basics mode trending items, which is on Thursdays, and then you have Back to Basics mode for fitness, health, and nutrition, and that's health, and those are on Fridays. We all know that. The only difference is that if you go to Spotify or Apple or even my YouTube channel, I have segregated that into 4 different parts, 4 different pies that you want. And slowly we'll be diverting over all those episodes into those podcasts. And with your love and support, I need all the reviews and everything else that whatever comes with it. Back to Basics is changing in many different ways. We're understanding what you are listening and what we are trying to do here. We're trying to build a mission here for Back to Basics. We usually give you, a preview of the next week's episode. And today, I don't want to bore you so much because you have listened so much. But there's one thing that I do want to say. Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today. And season 3 is going to be here shortly in January. Stay tuned, and please do follow me on Instagram and all the handlings that I have. And we're changing our logo, we're changing our website, we're changing many different things. And plus, we'll be having podcast courses too from Back to Basics. We will be also having a Back to Basics production house, which I want to help other podcasters to, do their work so then I can help them edit their work too. Plus, I also have a business consulting for Back to Basics, how to help and migrate from a small business to a big business. How to migrate from a hosting technology into cloud. Yes, Back to Basics does that too. So please do contact me, and please be mindful for everything else going on in the world, because we do simplify things and we do educate people and we do make you laugh at the same time. And if I have touched you in every different way, any emotions, any laughter, or anything else, please do let me know, because I like to hear from you. A small thank you, a small take care, a small pat on the back to Back to Basics would be awesome. If you go to my website, there's a section on the right side that says donation. If you want to donate and help the production for Back to Basics, it would be really grateful. I will be really humbled. But listen to all the stuff that I do, and it's all good stuff. So take care, God bless. Thank you again for season 2. And season 3, I will be back with a bang, with a change, with different music. As you can hear all the music right now, and it's different, isn't it? And it's going to be coming. So take care. God bless. Bye-bye.